Hello everyone, John Maher here. The sun is shining. Good for some, maybe bad for others, but this is the Grass10 update on your dairy edge. So the headlines, I suppose. Well, I suppose the first thing to say is for in the overall picture that growth is reducing in the south and the southeast, and that's probably going to spread across the country a bit more as rainfall is declining and the predicted growths are going to decline as well. We're now talking figures in the 30s for the likes of, Kilkenny, Carlow, Wexford, 40s for the likes of Wicklow, Waterford, I suppose East Cork and those places. So that's where we're at. There's little or no rainfall predicted across the country. So that means the water availability is now going to be limiting in many parts, not all parts, but in many parts. Saying all that, grass supply was good. To be fair, for the week gone by, at 690 kilograms of dry matter per hectare or 200 per livestock unit. Average growth was 68. Okay, it was down from the 70s the previous week. Demand has been consistent around 56 kilograms of dry matter per hectare. The diet for the record was 16 kilograms of grass and about 3 kilos of meal. The average pre-grazing yield was 1,600 of dry matter per hectare, which is a little bit high, but maybe not that bad for all groupings, right? But anyway, dry matter was 22 in Moore Park, and things are turning dry here. And the lowest was in Athenry at 16%, and the rest are around 18%. But dry matters are going to climb now with no rainfall, ground drying up, and growth starting to reduce a bit. Right, so that's the story, and this weather is an opportunity for some, but of great concern to others, and it depends, which camp and location you are in. I suppose looking at the figures in more detail, and again now they're in the past for the week, but 60% of farms had a surplus grass with an average farm cover of 750 kilograms of dry matter per hectare or 225 per livestock unit. This can be good, but can also be wrong. Wrong for farms that are growing well, as the pre-grazing yield in this group is around 1,700. Grass quality is also a challenge for many farms and will remain so. In some ways, then this figure mightn't be that bad or good in inverted commas, where growth is declining. As you might be glad of this grass, a surplus will not last at all, right? And for the record, about 30% of farms were on target at a farm cover of 640 or 170 kilograms of dry matter per livestock unit. So we're into an opportune spell for some, challenging spell for others. Right. So what I'll do here now is kind of do three scenarios. And I suppose I'll start with those farms who are facing growth reduction due to soil moisture deficit, and it's a growing bunch. And some of the soil moisture deficits now are going to get larger, right, or deeper. So I suppose the south and the southeast of the country has had reduced growth already. The predictions are not good. They're 30s, maybe at best 40s, particularly in well-drained soils. All right. So decisions are going to have to be farm specific now. Does the farm growth rate now keep up with her demand, right? And if not, if the growth is lower than demand, then demand needs to be reduced. So action has to be taken now. So the simple reduces of demand on the farm, or reducing what the animals eat to try and match their declining growth rate, is where we're going to here and trying to hold cover. You'd like to stay above 600 kilograms of dry matter per hectare if at all possible, and certainly not go below 500 for as long as possible. So that's where we're at. There's no point in, just for the record, if your farm covers 900, then, by arguments there make no sense at all, because you're going to have just grass quality problems. So we're trying to hold cover, but not at high levels, but at reasonable levels. So I suppose the first one that to help to reduce the demand is to bring size ground back into the grazing area. Maybe that's coming in already. Maybe it's second cut area that you want to graze. Maybe the calves and heifers should go to size ground off the milking platform. All those things have to be considered now to reduce the demand on the milking platform. I'll throw this out at people. They don't like it, but I would be doing my job unless I said it, which is removing surplus livestock empty cows, cull cows, cows with cell count issues. It's now July. Many people will come to the end of the breeding season very soon. If I take 10 cows out of 100, just to give the example, and they're eating 18 kilograms of grass a day, that's 180 kilograms, I suppose, of grass dry matter divided by 90 cows. It's an extra 2 kilograms of feed per cow. That's what 10 cows out of 100 will do, or 10%. You mightn't take 10%, you might take 5%, but it all starts to matter, is the point. Some buffer feeding will be required if necessary, just to go back to all we've learned in the past. Putting in feed and waste and grass makes no sense, so the strip wire has to go up to maximize utilization. If you're going feeding and the animals choose not to graze the grass and eat all the other feed and leave the grass behind, and then you face that grass, I don't know, let's say August, and the quality is wrong, then you're just, this makes no sense at all. So the utilization of grass has to remain high and the sward has to be cleaned off. Putting in feed and leaving grass behind just does nothing to fix the problems we're in at the moment. Right. So I'm going to suggest that keep the average farm cover around 600, 650 if at all possible. Cover per livestock unit, I suppose, ideally today, I'm going to say 200 to allow for the growth rate reduce, to hold rotation length. This is crucial now. Right. If the growth rate's 40 or 50, you're going to have to move to a 25-day rotation to hold, a pre-grazing yield of 1100, 1200. So what I mean by 25-day rotation, that's not looking back. That's 100 acres, you graze 4 acres a day. And if you don't have enough grass in that, then you start filling the gap, right? There are other tools and pasturists might help you with this, like the protected wedge, if you know what you're doing. Right. On the fertilizer, this question is quite common. The first question before we go into the decisions of fertilizer and drought is just everybody has to think of how much they have left. And if you're tight in fertilizer allowance, well, then maybe the drought's an opportunity. And some people are short of fertilizer, nitrogen, for what's left. So I'm going to suggest that for the vast majority of dairy farms, they need somewhere between 50 units of N per acre available to get you from here to early September. That's the kind of minimum amount. And if you've less than this available to you, well then, spreading nitrogen into a drought is kind of wasting nitrogen allowance, right? All the K and sulfur applications should be up to date now. So really the sulfur, you should have 16 units out on the standard dairy farm in the country applied at this stage. And probably 20 units per acre of K, either in the slurry or fertilizer form at this point on every paddock on the farm. Why I say that then, it's about 35 units per acre required to grow 13 tons of grass. That excludes cutting now, that's grazing only. If you cut, then it's way bigger than that. So we still can apply K into July and August, but I'd love to have 20 out at this stage, right? The best response to fertilizer nitrogen now is going to be in the reseeds, those sown in 24, 25, even those sown in 26. If you walk the farm, the pasture base will tell you what the growth rates are at, right? The poorest response is going to be in old grass, brown sections of paddocks, and you shouldn't be applying there. And I suppose just as a guide, pasture base, if you walk every paddock on the farm, will tell you what the growth rate is. And as a quick guide, once the growth goes below 30 kilograms of dry matter per hectare per day, you need to stop spreading fertilizer. All right, as a guide now, as a guide. Some paddocks will grow more, some will grow less, but that's kind of a guide for people, will I, won't I, in terms of fertilizer and nitrogen application, right? Let's be clear here, watery slurry, not spread in the middle of the day now, spread in the evening time. This actually is the best sort of nutrient. We've learned this from many droughts in the past. It gives the highest response in growth, and should be, I suppose, applied to the highest response paddocks, if that's okay to say, and not applied during the middle of the day, right, if that's all right. To say that, I know not everybody will be loving those comments about having to work in the evening, but if you want to maximize growth in the farm, that's where we'll be at. Right. So the second scenario then was the surplus grass in the farm and growth is already high. Well, then to me, to get the pre-grazing yield right is going to be the place to be. There are parts of the country that were saturated not so long ago in water content, and those farms in the north and northwest are going to grow very, very well for a while. But to get the pre-grazing yield back on track is the main thing there, and take the surplus out, so we end up grazing quality swards. The third grouping is an unusual grouping, but I have to mention them because I've worked with these people before, and those are on heavy land. They've had a very difficult spring. The variation in weather has caused them massive headaches in terms of grass quality. So what's happened here is they've tried to correct grass quality as a result of what happened in the spring. They didn't get to graze the first round, and one legacy has led to another. In that graze out didn't happen as well as it should. Then they got periods of wet weather. They couldn't graze out the way they wanted to, had to leave grass behind, and that has left problem on top of problem on top of problem. So they have massive grass quality challenges on the farm due to just poor graze out with difficult weather, with a legacy of the spring as well. They will be growing well, but they have a lot of correction to do. And we're in the month of July. We're going building grass in August, hopefully. So this correction will be their game because they are going to grow and they are going to get good response to fertilizer. But to try and correct the grass quality will be the main challenge there. And now is the opportune time to do that. All right. Just to say that. Right. For the month of July, didn't think I'd be talking about drought at this stage, but anyway, here we are. Um, we in Grass10 are focusing on the infrastructure for the month, right? We planned this, I suppose, a long time out, and we're going across the month of July through the newsletter, through other media as well. We bump into grazing or deficiencies in grazing infrastructure on many farms. This spring highlighted that again, whether it's roadways, paddocks, access, sometimes water truck in the wrong place, sometimes, inadequate water supply. When I mentioned that, I better say this right. So the standard rule of thumb in a drought scenario like this is 4 liters per liter of milk. So if you're doing 30 liters, that's 120 liters of water is the requirement of a cow. Just to keep that in mind. All right. Now, look, we're trying to focus on the grazing infrastructure to maximize grass utilization and improve labor efficiency. We'll keep you posted on it. We've a few things done already in terms of video and social media. So keep an eye on that. Our feature farmer this week is Tommie Devine, and there's a video done with Tommie and his grazing infrastructure already this week. So we're going to look at things like fencing, water, paddock size, drainage, roadways. So there's a few videos up on that if you have an interest. So back to Tommie. Tommie's from Roscommon and won the Pasture Progress Award for Roscommon. Has made tremendous progress. It is a growing herd. The herd has expanded from 70 cows to 200. He is grazing infrastructure upgrades quite a lot, and that's covered in the video as well, which we'll come to in a minute. I suppose where Tommie's at the moment, he's at 200 cows, but they are eating about 18, 19 kilograms of grass, 2 kilos of meal. He's growing grass over the ditches. He's in a good location in the country this weather to grow grass. Cows are doing about 22.5 litres at 3.86 protein and 4.89 fat. Average farm cover 662, growing 92, eating 64, stocked at 3.7, cover per livestock unit about 180, and the pre-grazing yield is 1450. Right. So anyway, and cows and heifers on the platform as well. So anyway, just so we understand that he's growing it very, very well. That wouldn't be the case for every farm in the country now, just to be clear. Right. So the cows are currently going into aftergrass and are going through it quickly, which often happens with aftergrass. Many will know that. I suppose he's waiting on the weather forecast to take out surplus grass, which he's going to have given the growth at 92 and demand at 64. The reseeds are sprayed at the end or this week. Yep, they were sown the 4th of June, so they're flying along. Right, I suppose in terms of the infrastructure then for Tom, that he's moved larger water trucks into the centre of the paddocks. Now, for every person that likes water trucks in the centre of paddocks, there's another person who doesn't. People who are grass orientated like them in the centre of paddocks. People who are tractor orientated will not like the trucks in the centre of the paddocks. But being a grazing man, I'm in that camp of liking him in the centre of the paddocks. He is holding on to the old trucks to divide up the paddocks for spring grazing, autumn grazing, which are handy to have when you're doing, on-off grazing. His paddock sizes though are being all moved to 36-hour paddocks. He's also installed an underpass to get across the far side of the road as well. So that's all covered in the video, and I won't say any more than that. All right. So that's Tommie's story, and thanks to Tom for doing the video and doing the newsletter this week as our feature farmer, and well done to him for winning the award. Is making tremendous progress. That's the story. It's going to be a challenging week for many. the numbers on rainfall don't look great. The numbers on grass growth don't look great either. So people have to be aware of that now. It's kind of heads up now. Anyway, if you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to this newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. Would like to thank all those who support the Grass10 campaign, AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, FBD and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week when we get ready for the All-Ireland. I didn't even mention hurling at all yet.